Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Throughout history, the powers that be have consistently wielded their influence to control the flow of information, censoring content deemed threatening to their authority. From the burning of books in ancient times to the suppression of journalism and music, censorship has been a dark stain on the tapestry of human expression.
Riot police in Istanbul used water cannon as crowds demonstrated a draft bill that would increase controls over the internet.
To see the lengths to which rulers would go to control knowledge, one only needs to glance back to the infamous burning of books in Nazi Germany. At this time, books deemed un-German were burned in 34 university towns and cities, including the Torah. But today, we find ourselves facing a new frontier of censorship, the digital realm. Governments and big tech corporations exert control over online content, censoring voices that challenge their narratives or threaten their interest.
We have been witnessing a very disturbing trend in social media lately. The giants of Silicon Valley are attempting to control the narrative and dictate what information you have access to by punishing people like me or perhaps like you for wrongthink.
The internet, once heralded as a bastion of free expression, is now subject to the same forces of censorship that have plagued society for centuries. Some argue that their freedom of speech is being violated as algorithms and moderators filter and suppress certain viewpoints. Groups such as Christians and conservatives often feel targeted as their content is flagged or removed under the guise of combating hate speech or misinformation.
Should social media companies censor speech that they deem to be hateful or violent or false? Or should they keep it up in the spirit of freedom of speech?
Just as books were burned to keep the general public from reading them in the past, today's digital content faces a similar fate, with information being suppressed or outright banned. As we navigate this new landscape of censorship, it's crucial to remain vigilant in defending our right to free expression and to challenge those who seek to control the flow of information for their own gain. On several occasions, UpTV has been censored, demonetized, or outright banned. By the grace of God and your support, we are still here. Since we recently just recovered from another attack from big tech, then today on UpTV, we are going to examine some of the many ways that an open and free internet, along with our freedom of speech, has been or is being threatened by the governments of the world and big tech. So stay tuned. My name is DevinWorlds, and this is Banned.
Author Evelyn Beatrice Hall best captured the principle behind free speech when she wrote, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." But do Americans really believe that?
Family, as many of you know, YouTube recently demonetized my channel. In the age of censorship, we always knew this day would come. In response, many of you have donated to the channel, which I am forever grateful for. It's times like these that UpTV needs your help the most. It is your donations that will allow videos like this and many more to still be produced. Don't allow big tech to put a stop to the truth. Please continue to support the channel by following the donation links in the description of this video. Any amount, big or small, is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your love, support, and generosity as we battle against spiritual wickedness in high places, tyranny, and injustice. My name is DevinWorlds, and we are the Dot Connectors.
You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
In the dimly lit corridors of media history, a force more insidious than overt government censorship has quietly dictated the terms of discourse: advertisers. These corporate entities, wielding their financial power, have shaped the narratives and stifled the voices that dare to challenge the status quo. This hidden influence has perpetuated a form of censorship that continues to affect our media landscape today. The story of Rod Serling, the visionary creator and host of the Twilight Zone, serves as a poignant example of this phenomena. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Serling's groundbreaking series sought to explore profound social and political issues through the lens of science fiction and fantasy. However, Serling's ambitious storytelling often collided with commercial interests of the networks and their sponsors. Serling was acutely aware of the power advertisers held over television content. He spoke candidly about the constraints they impose, lamenting how their financial influence stifled creative freedom. Just listen to him talk about it in an interview he did with Mike Wallace in the 1950s.
Well, we hear a lot about censorship of the writer on TV. We've heard a good deal about it in your own case especially.
Well, depending, of course, on the thematic treatment you're using, if you have the temerity to try to dramatize a theme that involves any particular social controversy currently extant, then you're in deep trouble.
Despite the acclaim and enduring legacy of the Twilight Zone, Serling's battles with censorship took a toll on his career. His frustrations with the limitations imposed by advertisers were well documented. He famously noted that while he had a considerable measure of creative freedom, in theory, in practice, it was a constant negotiation with those who prioritized profit over principle. Serling's experiences are not unique, but rather a reflection of a broader trend in media. Advertisers, by controlling the purse strings, have long dictated the boundaries of acceptable content. This influence extends beyond television to print media, radio, and now digital platforms. The persuasive nature of advertising dollars has led to a form of self-censorship among creators who fear losing financial support. Today, as media consumption shifts increasingly online, the dynamics of advertising and censorship continue to evolve. Social media platforms and news websites relying on ad revenue often face similar pressures to moderate content that could alienate advertisers. The recent rise of brand safety initiatives highlights this ongoing struggle as companies seek to ensure their ads do not appear alongside controversial content.
Elon Musk, in his first interview since publishing a post agreeing with a user making an anti-Semitic comment earlier this month on X, apologized for what he called his dumbest ever social media post. But he lashed out at advertisers leaving the platform.
I hope they stop. You hope. Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go f*** yourself. But go f*** yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is.
Well, he didn't hold back. A slew of brands, including Disney and Apple, decided to stop advertising on the platform earlier this month. This after a report by liberal advocacy group Media Matters said their ads were appearing alongside pro-Nazi content and white nationalist posts. Earlier this week, Musk visited Israel, where he spoke to families of Israeli hostages, as well met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But he says the trip was not an apology tour.
The legacy of Rod Serling serves as a cautionary tale about the corrosive impact of advertising on free speech. As consumers of media, we must remain vigilant and question whose interests are being served by the content we consume. In this modern age, the specter of censorship by advertisers looms larger than ever, shaping the narratives and silencing the voices that seek to challenge and inspire. In the Twilight Zone of media influence, the true power lies not in the hands of the storytellers, but in the pockets of the advertisers. And that, perhaps, is the most chilling reality of all.
The Chancellor, the late Chancellor, was only partly correct. He was obsolete. But so is the state, the entity he worshipped. Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete. A case to be filed under M for Mankind.
In the interconnected world of the internet, freedom of speech is a cornerstone of our democracy and personal expression. Yet this vital liberty faces unprecedented threats from various fronts. For example, big tech companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon wield immense power over the digital landscape. These corporations control the platforms where much of our online speech occurs, giving them the ability to shape and restrict content according to their policies. While they argue that content moderation is necessary to prevent the spread of misinformation and harmful content, the methods and motives behind these decisions are often opaque and inconsistent. The algorithms that govern content visibility can suppress dissenting voices and favor commercially viable content, leading to a homogenized online discourse. Additionally, the collection and monetization of user data by these tech giants further erode privacy and freedom. As individuals, online activities are meticulously tracked and analyzed, often without explicit consent.
In the fall of 1998, Susan Wojcicki had just turned 30 years old and was working at the marketing department of some big company in the Bay Area. Wojcicki was hardly a failure. She had a college degree and a job. On the other hand, it's hard to imagine that anyone who knew her at the time thought she was going to become rich and powerful someday. But things change fast. In one of those amazing windfalls of good fortune they used to write movies about, Wojcicki rented her garage to the two guys who founded Google, and voila, 23 years later, she's worth more than $500 million and runs YouTube, the largest digital platform in the world. We tell you this not to attack Susan Wojcicki's life story. Good luck is a great thing. But simply to remind you that many of the people now in charge of your life have no relevant qualifications to justify the power they now hold. They just fell into it, as people do. What's infuriating is that they won't admit this. They pretend that the control they wield is part of the natural order of things somehow, that they deserve it, that they're God. Most of them forget that not so long ago, they worked in the marketing department. Here's Susan Wojcicki announcing that she plans to censor any information about COVID that she doesn't like, even if that information has been posted by physicians who are treating COVID. Watch.
But then we also talk about removing information that is problematic. You know, of course, anything that is medically unsubstantiated, so people saying like, take vitamin C, take turmeric, like those all will cure you. Those are the examples of things that would be a violation of our policy. Anything that would go against World Health Organization recommendations would be a violation of our policy. And so remove is another really important part of our policy.
And who can forget the nightmare that Article 13 was? The UK Article 13 bill, part of the broader EU directive on copyright in the digital single market, aimed to protect creators' rights by holding platforms accountable for copyrighted material uploaded by users. While the intention was to safeguard intellectual property, the execution of this bill would have had significant implications for free speech.
It's almost like we're living in a brave new world right now, right? I mean, we're dealing with brand new technology that nobody seems to be able to get its head around. Meanwhile, Michelle Greenstein joins us now to talk about another development in this story that's somewhat similar. It has to do with what's going on in Europe, where they're passing laws that maybe it's a way to try and reconcile what's going on with the technology that none of us can come to grips with, where this law says anytime you use something that doesn't belong to you, it belongs to another entity, be it a newspaper, a person, a platform, you have just broken the law. You can't do it.
Right. If anything, it's a way to reconcile with the fact that people are questioning narratives of the big media companies a lot of the time online. So what happened this morning is that the European Parliament passed some legislation that essentially clamps down on online sharing. Basically, if you're going to share something, whether it be an image, a meme, or a quote from another article, you need permission from the content owner. Now, in theory, this was already the law, but what's changing with this new copyright directive is that the onus is now on the online online platform, whereas it used to be on the content owner. If I said, hey, like Sarah's using my image, please take it down, I didn't give her permission, then Facebook would take it down. But now Facebook is required legally to take it down whether or not I say, hey, please take it down. So that's what's changing here. Now, Alex Voss, the man behind the legislation, here's how he defended it. He said this directive is an important step towards properly remunerating the thousands of creatives and journalists whose social media platforms depend on. But here's the thing, critics, like I kind of alluded to before, are saying that this is doing more than just fighting piracy, that we're actually going to see a change in the internet as we know it. Julia Reda, who's another member of the European Parliament, actually called this a dark day for internet freedom. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation says that this legislation turns the web into a tool for the automated surveillance and control of its users.
Article 13 effectively requires platforms to implement upload filters to detect and block copyrighted content. These automated systems, however, are far from perfect and can inadvertently censor legitimate content, stifling creativity and expression. The risk of over-blocking, where content that falls under fair use or parody is removed, poses a severe threat to the vibrant exchange of ideals that defines the internet.
So, the beginning of the end is finally here. A dark day for internet freedom. It's now over, and Articles 11 and 13 have passed in the EU Parliament. The internet as we know it is about to die. Lobbyists have tried in vain for years to bring about draconian copyright reform with SOPA, PIPA, and ACTA, but the internet successfully stopped them at every turn. But the forces of evil are nothing if not persistent, and they kept trying until they eventually pushed through immensely destructive new laws that will undermine free speech, online creativity, alternative news media, and even make many internet memes impossible. This is very, very bad news, and we're in serious trouble here.
In more recent news, we have the infamous TikTok ban bill. The TikTok ban bill, introduced in various forms across multiple countries, ostensibly aimed to protect national security by restricting access to the popular social media app TikTok. Critics argue that such measures set a danger precedent for government overreach. By targeting a specific platform, these bills could pave the way for future bans on other platforms deemed undesirable by those in power, effectively stifling diverse voices and curbing digital expression. Moreover, the lack of transparency and the potential for arbitrary enforcement raise significant concerns. Who decides which platforms pose a threat, and based on what criteria? The ambiguity surrounding these decisions opens the doors to censorship, where governments can control and manipulate the flow of information to suit their agendas.
Lawmakers have taken the first steps toward potentially banning TikTok in America over fears that the Chinese Communist Party can access the Chinese company's data and spy on Americans. Now, TikTok influencers have descended on Washington, D.C., along with a lot of lobbyists to try and convince the Senate to keep the platform. Skylar Henry shares what's happening.
Keep TikTok! Keep TikTok! Keep TikTok!
TikTok influencers protested outside the White House Wednesday, urging the president not to sign a bill banning the social media platform. They say the app is about more than just dancing.
Our representatives tell us all we know how to do is dance. If you want us, we're advocates, we're educators, we inspire, but if you want us to dance, we'll dance.
JT Laybourne from Utah makes a living on TikTok selling apparel.
It is 90+% of my family's income.
But he may soon be forced to find a new way to do business after the House voted to ban the platform in the U.S. unless there's an ownership change.
The yeas are 352, the nays are 65.
The bill passed overwhelmingly amid concerns TikTok's parent company, the Chinese-owned ByteDance, could pose a national security threat.
Americans need to ask themselves whether they want to give the Chinese government the ability to control access to their data.
A very divided House came together behind this bill, but its fate in the Senate remains unclear. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has not said whether he'll bring the bill to the floor for a vote.
I'll have to consult and intend to consult with my relevant committee chairman to see what their views would be.
President Biden has said he would sign the bill, while former President Trump, who once called for a TikTok ban, has spoken out against the legislation. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
As the internet has evolved over the years, there has been a growing concern over the censorship of Christian content online. Social media platforms and search engines have been accused of restricting religious expression, sermons, and conservative viewpoints under the guise of combating hate speech and misinformation. This trend raises alarming questions about the selective application of censorship and its impact on religious freedom.
And at the same time, I run into a lot of issues with YouTube. YouTube's been acting up lately. I'm like, they've been like not paying me for videos and just saying things are like not suitable for children. Like if I say Jesus, watch, this video is not suitable. Just because I said that. Just because I said Jesus. Happens every time, but you know what? I don't care. Keep your money. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Jesus is awesome. Kiss my butt. I don't care. I don't care. I don't know if you should say that in the same sentence, like, you know, because it sounds kind of derogatory, but it's really not, because I don't care. I'm not sorry. No, Jesus is awesome. Hashtag deal with it.
The Bible itself warns of persecution and the suppression of truth. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12, it is written, "Indeed, all who desire to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted." Similarly, Matthew chapter 5 verse 10 states, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." These verses underscore the enduring struggle for religious expression, now echoed in the digital age.
On a micro level, the issue is not really skin. The issue is sin. And I firmly believe that the issue is that internally we are flawed. Internally, we need salvation from our sin. Internally, our sin makes us prideful. It makes us judgmental. It makes us prejudiced, which leads to racism. It makes us lash out at people that don't look like us. It makes us look past evidence to protect people that look like us. It makes us do all those things. It makes us lash out in anger. It makes us point fingers. It makes us, our sin that's in us makes us do those things. And the only salvation for this sin is the gospel. The only way to really cure that what's on the inside is understanding that Jesus Christ died for our sins. And so to me, on a micro level, it's understanding.
Yep, and just like that.
The convergence of legislative actions, corporate control, state surveillance, and commercial interest represents a multifaceted threat to online freedom of speech. Each of these elements, from the TikTok ban bill and big tech's dominance to the UK Article 13 bill, China's surveillance system, and the influence of advertisers, contributes to an environment where the free exchange of ideals is increasingly compromised. The added layers of Christian censorship further complicates the landscape, challenging the core tenets of religious and personal expression.
Yo, what's up? It's D Wood coming to you on the Apostate Prophets channel. Why am I on the Apostate Prophets channel and not on my own channel? Easy. I got banned for posting statistics about Christian persecution. It's official. YouTube will no longer tolerate videos that discuss the persecution of Christians. If a Christian gets killed for her faith in Pakistan or Nigeria, you're not allowed to discuss it on YouTube. If you do, the ironically named Trust and Safety Team will give you a strike for hate speech. I got one this morning. Hi, Act 17 Apologetics. Our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our hate speech policy. We've removed the following content from YouTube. Video: Global Persecution of Christians, Disturbing Trends.
As we navigate this complex digital terrain, it is crucial to remain vigilant and advocate for policies and practices that protect our fundamental rights. The internet's promise as a platform for free expression and democratic participation depends on our ability to resist these encroachments and ensure that the digital age remains a beacon of liberty rather than a tool of control. The battle for online freedom is not just a technological or legal issue. It is a profound moral imperative that affects the very fabric of our society.
Hate speech laws are bad enough. It's not like there's no hate speech. Like, anyone with any sense knows that there's hate speech. Who's going to regulate it? Who's going to define it? And I know the answer to that. The last people in the world you would want to. And then we cross another barrier and we allow the government to compel speech for some hypothetically compassionate reason? No way. That's a really bad idea.
But what are your thoughts? Sound off in the comment section and let me know. And because there will be no Up TV without viewers like you, I would like to give a special shout out to anyone who has recently donated to or supported the channel in any type of way. This is Devin with Up TV. I love you, family. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also hit that bell so you get notified anytime I upload a new video. As always, give your life to Yeshua, and I'll holla at y'all later. Peace.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. This is a really extremely tough report for me to give today because there is so much going on in society. But the Bible predicted that Christians would come under persecution in the latter days for his name's sake. And this is exactly what we are seeing right now, to the level of that if you have certain views that the left and radical progressives don't like, in this case, particular, say, Christian views, or even Muslim views. They actually have a similar view in what I'm going to bring up today. But if you have these particular views and you speak out and mention any kind of hate or insults against gender, race, or creed, then you could be looking at 3 years in prison. For example, if there's a pastor up there on the podium talking about scripture that happens to mention homosexuality and there's someone in the audience who doesn't like it, then that pastor goes to prison.
Thank you for watching Up TV. If you like this video and would love to see more, check out these great videos here. And don't forget to subscribe to Up TV and Up TV 2 for even more great videos.